We're back for the second installment of what we're calling 4 for 4. Yet I don't call it that anywhere else but right here. It's always something different on the actual titles that get posted. So what we do is we each recommend 4 comics that we're currently reading and enjoying, or at least have read and enjoyed if we're not currently reading. We'll go back and forth. We'll recommend a comic. Maybe you'll like him. Maybe you won't. We don't care. We do. I'm going to go first. Matt, you ready to time me? All right.
Right.
Hit me.
You're on.
So if you listen to last week's episode, on my little board behind me, I had a quote that said, "Dead is dead," which was a rallying cry for Valiant Comics in the 90s as a way to kind of take a shot at Marvel and DC, because in their universe, when someone died, they stayed dead. Well, in my first recommendation, Dead Isn't Dead. It's a comic called Revival from Image.
Ooh.
I'm on volume 1. I think it's 8 volumes or something like that. It's quite a bit. It's a lot to read. I just started volume 1. Quick premise. It's in a small town in Minnesota or something. Somewhere cold weather because there's snow on the ground. So I know that much. And then randomly, everyone that's dead just gets back up and starts living their lives again like nothing has happened.
Okay.
And that's about as far as I got. I'm so sorry. I'm not super far into it, but it hooked me instantly. And really? I'm really, really liking it so far. There's also some weird glowy alien thing walking around that can kind of talk, but not really, and seems to be interested in the main character's son. Or at least who is the main character so far, an issue and a half in. So I know there's more to unpack there. So far, they're still trying to figure out what happened and why. The town is sort of cut off from everything else. There's checkpoints everywhere. Government agencies are attempting to sort of keep it quiet and contained to this one town and figure out what happened.
Okay. All right.
That's recommendation number. I don't have much more to say about it because I haven't read much of it.
So,
but
how many? You're on the first trade, you said?
Yes.
How many issues in are you?
An issue and a half. Not far.
Okay. So you're not super far. The dead that are rising, are they people that have been killed from this point forward, or people that have been in the ground for hundreds of years?
I don't know that much yet.
Okay. All right. I was just curious.
I know the first few people that you encounter in the comic that have risen are recently.
Okay.
But I don't know if there's a statute of limitations on you're dead long enough you don't wake back up in the world of Revival. But I'm hoping to find out soon.
Okay. I'm going to throw another recommendation at you at some point. If you like this, I think you'll like Stillwater by Zdarsky.
Okay.
Add it to your list at some point 4 years from now. But
all right, I'm going to reclaim my time now.
Yep.
Taking over my time with the sub recommendations. What do I have left?
You got a minute and a half.
All right, let's bank the minute. I got nothing else to say.
You probably got 2 minutes. You probably got 2 minutes banked because I cut in there and asked some questions.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Bank.
All right.
Are
you ready?
Me whenever. Yep.
And you're on.
Okay, so my number 4 recommendation is, I feel kind of similarly to Dave. I definitely would recommend this comic. I don't know how much of a recommendation I would give it, but my number 4 is Once and Future by Kieran Gillen and Dan Mora. If you know anything about me through this podcast, and that poster over there, other side, there, I am a big fan of Dan Mora art, and he's the artist on this entire series, and it is excellent, excellent art. I picked it up because just looking at the covers, I'd seen it, I kind of heard about it a little bit. You see this old woman on the cover, and then this guy who on that cover, it's his name's Duncan. He's got red hair, and it's very vibrant red. But long story short, his grandmother, it's that storyline of her being this old hunter back in the day and kind of the protector of the realm, kind of, so to speak. Okay. And Duncan is very when you start out on the journey, Duncan is a very nerdy, scared kind of guy. And it goes through to where I'm at now. I'm monthly on the book now. He's not the same way as he started this journey. The reason I don't know if this is my highest recommend is this book is very British and it is very steeped in Arthurian lore. Do you know anything about Arthurian lore, Dave?
No, I don't think I
Like,
want to.
it's very steep. So, like, Beowulf is in it. Like, it's all the first trade is about like King Arthur. And so, if you know Arthurian lore, I think you're going to absolutely love this book. I don't know anything about that. So, like, I was Wikipediaing, like, who is Galahad and who is all these other things. And like our other friend Sheridan, I was talking to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, man, like I know all that stuff." I was like, "Dude, I know none of that stuff."
That's
So
not
it
the
is
type of
like,
stuff he would know.
yeah, exactly. And then he sent me like a podcast. He's like, "Oh, listen to these podcasts," and they're an hour long of like, and there's
No,
40 of them. I was like, "Dude, I
no
can't, I
way.
can't,
That's a
I
full
can't
work
do that."
week. That's a work
Exactly,
week.
exactly. But it's the art is really good. I kind of get the story, but like I don't get it as much as most of the other stories that I get. But I do enjoy it. It's wrapping up. I think issue 30 is the last issue. The one I just showed you was 26. So we're almost done. That's it. I don't have a whole lot more to say about that book,
Oh,
but
you can bank
yeah.
a minute too then, because you got about a minute left. So
Okay.
not that we're gonna
Let me know when you're
actually
ready,
tally
sir.
up banked time, but fun to say. I am ready.
All right. Go ahead.
So I actually recommended this comic on a bite size. So if you watch any of the stuff we post on TikTok, you'll have heard me talk about this one before. This is actually the second miniseries, but it's by James Patrick and Rem Brew, called Kaiju Score. There we go, Kaiju Score. This miniseries is called Steal from the Gods. Um, I'll give a quick synopsis as to sort of what the world of Kaiju Score is, because the the world that it's set in, what initially attracted me to this book. Um, so in the Kaiju Score universe, big monsters, aka Kaiju, exist, and humans sort of coexist with them. They don't really come onto land often. They kind of just stay in the oceans, but every once in a while, one will make landfall. Um, Unlike Pacific Rim movie, they don't just go to destroy. Sometimes they're just looking for food or place to sleep, or they just wander too far. They're generally not concerned with what humans are doing. Um, but in this universe where giant monsters are real and are sometimes causing very big problems for humanity, um, there's this dude who plans heists, steals things with his crew, and in the first miniseries, which is really what I would recommend reading first because they tie directly into each other. But in the first miniseries, he actually plans a heist around an expected kaiju landfall because of like the tides and the time of year. They know this one specific kaiju is going to make land in Florida, so he gathers up his crew and he gets it financed. And the whole plan is that they're going to go into the restricted zone because they evacuate everybody when the kaiju's make landfall. They're going to go and steal a bunch of stuff.
That's a cool plot.
Yeah.
I didn't
And what?
understand how the heist part,
Yeah.
but that's cool.
And there's also like a really interesting sort of like sub dynamic of the way that the heisting works in this, because there's like a network of people that broker and fund and finance types of heists, and there's different crews, and they're all aware of each other. It's sort of like a network of thieves. So there's some
That's
interesting
cool,
things
man.
that play out in that realm too. And in Steal from the Gods, the second miniseries, which Steal from the Gods just wrapped up last month, came out this year. It kind of picks up where the first one left off, but like turns everything up to a fun comic, man. Not everything's got to be superheroes. Not everything's got to be serious. Sometimes it's just nice to read something kind of fun and different. That's what Kaiju Score. Plus, I really like Kaiju.
You're a big kaiju guy. No
Big
pun
Kaiju
intended.
guy.
Big kaiju guy. You got a minute left, so I don't know if you
Bank
need
it.
any more time.
Bank it.
Bank it, dude.
I don't
Bank
know
it.
what for, but I'm banking time.
Bank it.
I'm gonna end up going the full four for these next two, probably.
Oh, we'll see how I do on this one. Probably won't go the full four, but
You ready?
Yeah, let me get a sip.
Gosh, you're
I'm
not
good.
ready. You're not ready.
I'm ready. Are you ready for this jelly? I'm ready.
Yeah, no. Go.
So, very rarely is there. That's not true. Me and Dave have a lot of
We're off to
crossovers.
a rough
Very,
start.
very rarely do me and Dave solidly agree on something. I think one thing we can agree upon is the greatness of Robert Kirkman.
Hmm.
Invincible. I'm actually going to be starting a reread of that here soon.
Love to hear it.
Um, but I'm starting to read the Robert Kirkman series that I fell in love with, and it's based upon a TV show that I think a lot of people have seen, and that book is Walking Dead. I started picking up Walking Dead Deluxe. I know it's ridiculous. I bought Walking Dead in digital. I have it. Some of the issues, I have hardcovers. I have trade paperbacks. But I just wanted to check it out because Walking Dead Deluxe is printed in color, and that's one thing that Walking Dead has never been in. So I wanted to see what that looked like. This book is so good, and this is me and Dave have talked about it before. About instead of being upset about current comics, there is years of comics that we have, and I haven't read Walking Dead in years. And there's so much stuff that I forgot about the story. I remember the main beats. I remember what happens in issue 100. I remember some of the stuff, but there's a lot that I do not remember at all. And the violence and color, like, I don't think I'm a crazy squeamish person. It makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. And that's what Kirkman said. He was like, ideally, he wanted this series to be in color.
Really? I didn't know that.
The first issue, he says intended it for it to be in color, but he couldn't afford it at the time. So that's why it was printed in black and white. And I like the black and white vibe. It's very,
Couldn't afford it. Wasn't it
1960s.
published by Image?
Yeah, but you got to front the money. You got to put the
Really?
money up. You have to put the money up for the Image. At least that's how it is today. He only was anticipating it going for 10 issues because that's all the financing and money he had.
Oh,
So yeah, so
interesting.
that's why he did it in black and white so he could get to the 10 issues. It's like, it is what it is. And this whole story about the zombie thing or the space aliens thing, right? Like he pitched it originally. They were like, when are the aliens going to come in the series? When are they coming? He's like, they're coming. And then once they started getting the sales back and it was a hit, he was like, yeah, I was never going to do that. So that's like Robert Kirkman gambling on himself. But the story is so good. I mean, if you're a listener of this show, you probably have some concept of what Walking Dead is, but it's post-apocalyptic world with zombies in it. But I remember when I got the first trade, what it said on the back was like, it's not really a zombie story. It's about the humanity involved. And that's what Walking Dead is about. And you get so sucked up and wrapped into these characters and invested in them. It's a joy. So like I'm one issue behind current now, so I'm going to be reading this book, monthly. And I honestly hope I kind of get juice for Invincible and they reissue Invincible because I wanted to start reading Invincible like once a month, getting that burn, letting it kind of sit there. But there's not really a rationale for Invincible because it's in color, it's whatever. We have
I just need
collections,
him to
but
make new Invincible
or
comics.
new Invincible or new
I did.
Invincible.
I did read I got Skybound X with the Battle Beast story in
Yeah,
it.
yeah. All right,
So
well, I'm
good.
gonna add it.
Ties directly to Invincible.
I'm gonna add it to the list then. I gotta add it to the list.
But
But
wait to read it until after you start your Invincible reread.
okay. Yeah, that I'm good. This really rekindled my love for Walking Dead. So I'm
You're
really
over
excited.
by 5 seconds.
So,
Good. Get some bank time that we don't
yeah.
track.
So Skybound X, it's after like in the last issue of Invincible?
No, so remember the first time you encounter Battle Beast in
Vaguely.
Invincible?
Vaguely, yes.
So Mark teams up with the Guardians of the Globe,
Yep.
fight a crime boss, has a bunch of hired guns basically to defend him. Battle Beast is one of those. Battle Beast basically beats the shit out of everybody and then is like pissed off because there was no one there to challenge his might. And then he was like, "That's it, I'm leaving," and he teleports away. The first panel of the Skybound X story for Battle Beast scene where everyone's beat up in that high rise. Mark's all bloodied up on the ground. Battle Beast says, there's no one here worthy enough of my might to challenge me. I'm leaving.
Is that Skybound X? Is that just a bunch of random it's an anthology book, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So back on track.
Yep.
Get me on the clock for 4 minutes.
Ready, go.
Yep. So we've talked about this little connected universe comics many, many times on the podcast. We all know that Matt and I love everything that's happening with Supermassive. All of those characters. And if I had to rank those characters in order of best to worst, Rogue Sun is number 1. This recommendation is not Rogue Sun because we did that last time. I think Matt did it. This recommendation is for the second best character, Supermassive's universe. That Radiant Red.
Oh.
Satomi is the most interesting Radiant. Full stop. Full stop. Her story and the conflict of her existing with the Radiant is the most interesting thing that is happening to someone with a Radiant massive. It's just the truth. This miniseries ties directly into everything that's happened in Radiant Black. If you're reading Radiant Black, you'll probably remember in issue number 6, the end of the first trade paperback, first story arc, was a very odd one-off issue. Pretty much just had Satomi and Radiant Red issue. Radiant Red number 1 picks up where Radiant Black number 6 left. The whole 5-issue series just ties a ribbon on what Radiant Red is. Damn. We're gonna see her again. Spoilers. Sorry, she's not gone. She's gonna be around for a while, I think. Man, what a fun little 5-issue. I typically don't like miniseries. I prefer an ongoing series to a miniseries, but this was really, really well written. The art is a little bit on the cartoony, manga side, some places for me, but in general, I think it still kind of fit the tone of the book really well. Really liked it. She's the most conflicted Radiant. I like that. She doesn't know what to do with the powers. Is she good? Is she bad? She's just making bad decisions because there's a lot of stress and pressure in her life. All of those things are kind of true. But you explore all of them in this 5-issue miniseries. I know you're disappointed because now you're going to go buy it, but I don't care. You should buy it and you should read it. Call yourself a
I just wish the art
fan.
wasn't that art because I would have bought it.
But really not that bad when you get into it.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm going to go buy it.
A lot of characters from Radiant Black show up in the comic.
I'm going to go buy it now. I got to have it.
Fills in a lot of holes.
Do I chase the issues or do I get the trade or do I read it digitally? That's the question.
I don't know, man. I got everything from Lone Star Comics. They had all in stock. I pre-ordered issues 4 and 5, but 1, 2, and 3 they were in stock.
I might just do that. Order them, get them shipped.
Number 1 wasn't any more expensive than your standard back issue markup price. It wasn't crazy. Yeah. Not super collectible. Yeah. That's it. Radiant Red. Go read it.
Beautiful.
I'll finish ranking out the characters just for fun. Rogue Sun, Radiant Red, then probably Radiant Pink, Yellow, Dead Lucky.
Dead Lucky's at the bottom for you?
1 issue, man. I don't know what I have there yet. What do you want from me? I need more time.
Very critical. Very critical.
Wait, I skipped Radiant Black, didn't I? Radiant Black could be 3.
Okay.
Skip Radiant. So Rogue Sun, Radiant Red, the Marshall Radiant Black.
Spoilers.
Dude, we're on issue 19 now. It's been almost 2 years.
Yeah. All right.
It.
All right. I'm ready whenever.
My phone screen went dark. Okay. And go.
So, if you know anything about me, good, bad, or indifferent, I have been a fan of one of the most manliest sports of all time since I was about 6 years old. It was not the National Football League. It's not the NBA. It's the truest form of athletic competition, and that is professional wrestling. Uh, my pick for number 2 is "Do a Power Bomb" by Daniel Warren Johnson.
I thought this was going to be in your recommendations last time. I thought last month this would have made it in.
So, Daniel Warren Johnson, I think he's a good writer. He's actually on Action Comics, which I really enjoy. I don't particularly love his art, and like we've been feeding off each other a lot. When you were talking about Radiant Red, how I don't love the art; it's not my thing, but you'll get it. Like I did not like this art. I don't particularly love these covers, but once you read it, it really comes together and makes sense. And I do kind of like his art, oddly enough. As I stated, I'm a professional wrestling fan, but honestly, this is not a profession. It's a professional wrestling book, but much like a lot of the stuff that me and Dave talk about, it's about family. And that's where I think that you Dave would even connect with it. It's not an overly wrestling comic, but it has wrestling elements. To just summarize the plot without giving too much away, because this is a relatively recent book. Um, the protagonist, her mother is like the greatest like luchadora of all time. Like she's like a crazy mega overstar in the world of professional wrestling, and the daughter is living up to that shadow of her mother that I think we've all kind of felt in some kind of aspect. Might not be apparent, but we felt we've been in someone's shadow before. So very relatable in that way. And she ends up making a deal with the devil, and gets involved in this
Okay.
like a devil character to get involved in this underworld professional wrestling tournament. Um, it is excellent, dude. It really is good. And I'm not just saying that as a wrestling guy. The cliffhanger at the end of issue 2 is Rogue Sun level number 4 and Radiant Black 5 level cliffhanger.
Okay.
That good. I totally was like, I pre-ordered this book. I'm like, it's a wrestling comic. I'll read it. Like, whatever. We'll see how it is. Dude, I cannot wait for issue number 3, man. Like, it is good. So I think it's like a little 7-issue miniseries. I'm looking forward to the rest of the issues, and I hope it, delivers as much as issues 1 and 2, and especially issue number 2. So, yeah. Do a Power Bomb by Daniel Warren Johnson. Good job. Good book. I don't know.
All right. You got 40 seconds left over.
That's it. I think we need to trim it to 3 for 3, man. Put some more pressure on us.
Well, for my last one, I will have no issue filling 4 minutes. Whenever you're ready.
This is your last one, right?
My last week. This is number 4.
All right. When I start the clock when you start talking, so.
All right. Well, start the clock. We've done a full episode on this comic before. I'm about to recommend. But I'm recommending not that comic. Well, I am, but Undiscovered Country by Scott Snyder. I love that comic. I really do.
Okay.
In between issues number 18, so the end of the 3rd volume, 19, they released a one-shot. Destiny Man.
I saw this.
So I picked it up, and I'm glad I did. Because
you love the Destiny Man.
I do love the Destiny Man. However, to say that Undiscovered Country Destiny Man is required reading would be a gross statement. This is a linchpin issue of this. If you didn't pick up this one shot, you have missed out on so much knowledge. They answer so many questions in the 20 or so pages in this one shot. I was literally like every other page, I was like, holy shit. Are you serious? Scott Snyder, man, I have such a love-hate with Snyder.
Yeah.
When I love what he's doing, God, I am all in. And this one
Yeah.
shot just like amped me up so much for the rest of this. Holy shit. So much stuff happens. So much stuff happens in this. It's incredible. I couldn't believe it. Like he alluded to so much stuff. I'm like, I'm itching to like get into the next volume. And answered so many questions from. I was blown away. I typically don't like these types of ones. They always feel like they're filler or unnecessary background. They're just fleshing out a character like, oh, here comes a boring 20-page origin story that no one ever asked for. No. This is not a bridge issue, not filler, required reading, and I cannot believe how much packed into that. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. So remember in the first trade when Daniel talking about how he's been in the United States before.
Yep.
That's it. Like they just move on and they're like, yeah, good luck figuring out what that meant. Well, you'll find out what that meant. And
was this like oversized? Is it like 96 pages or something? Is it ridiculous?
Regular comic, man.
It's action packed.
Dude just threw in a tweener that was just like mind blowing. Absolutely insane.
Are you reading this in singles or are you doing it in trade?
I buy the singles and then I read all 6 when arc finishes because Snyder's just too dense in this comic to read it month to month. I'll forget what's happening. I have to read it back to back.
So is this? You said it's after an arc, so this is after arc 3. And have you collected arc 4 in singles? Then is that where it's? I'm just trying to gauge where
the 4th arc just started. So I just got
just
issue
started.
19,
okay.
And 20 is on its way. I should have 20.
Okay.
Or tomorrow, probably. Might be in my mailbox right now. I haven't gotten.
Very cool.
So yeah, I almost didn't get it, but because it was Destiny Man, I was like, Destiny Man's cool as hell. Like I got to get the Destiny Man comic just to put it in the box. It's part of the collection. But
yeah,
and I waited to read it for so long. If I would have known how good it was, I would have read it like the day it showed up. It's been sitting in my read pile for, I don't know.
Don't you love that when you like? I that happens to me a lot. I collect stuff and then I was like, yo, why did I wait so long? That was Rogue Sun until you started gassing it up, and then I was like, why did I wait so long? What was I thinking? It's just a good feeling to have that.
Like I loved Undiscovered Country.
Yeah, you loved it from jump.
But like this issue just like solidified
that you're on the right path.
This is peak good Snyder. I'm so in for whatever's coming next.
And you said it answers questions that like were in some of those previous.
I have no idea how many questions it is. Dude, it fills in massive story gaps. Massive story gaps.
Maybe I need to read the letters pages because they might be like, yeah, just hang on. Like, what's because there's like series you'll drop. You'll be like, I just don't get it. Like, what am I not getting? And that could totally be like Undiscovered Country. We talked about it. Like, if you just kind of read it and trade, you're like, oh, whatever. This is what, yeah.
I'm curious where he puts this in the trades because the trade for Volume 3 is already out. This came out after that trade came out. So it has to lead off Volume 4. Yes. I don't know. Anyway, I'm probably way over my 4 minutes.
Oh, you're fine. We were getting into some conversation, so it's all good, man.
Go read Undiscovered Country. If you're not reading Undiscovered Country, you're not allowed to listen to this podcast anymore. Them's the rules. My podcast, I made it up. You got to read Undiscovered Country. You can't listen.
It's my podcast. I'll get.
That's not. Please don't stop listening if you don't read Undiscovered Country. That was just a joke. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready.
Go.
So a while ago, um, you were talking to me about one of your friends, and they made a recommendation, a comic book recommendation.
Hmm.
Um, and I
There's
decided
gonna be a
to
little egg on my face at the end of this one.
partake in that recommendation. When I was at the comic shop, I saw a beautiful hardcover that I'd seen before, but I did not pick that one up. But there was a second edition printing, so I picked that hardcover up. So I picked up the deluxe hardcover edition of Something is Killing the Children. Your buddy Eric recommended that we read the first arc of Something is Killing the Children. Eric, you were right. Holy shit, dude. Have you read this series at all?
That's why there's egg on my face, man, because I'm passing on recommendations from my friends to you that I haven't even read myself.
Dude,
I know.
this book, I got the single issues. I want this book. I want this. I want these hardcovers on my shelf. It is about, and I'm keeping this vague as hell. Something is killing the children. Long story short, in this
I
small
figured
town.
that part out.
That is the thing. This character right here, Erica Slaughter, that's your female representation done right. I am so on board. She is so badass and so awesome. And I really don't want to talk about it that much because the book is that good. I got like, it was just like, oh, I'm going to read like an issue or two. Dude, I fell down the rabbit hole. I read that whole thing in like 2 days, and I don't read 18 issues like that. I got completely sucked into the story. James Tinian, I mean, I tip my hat to that guy. And I listened to an interview I told you about on a podcast where he talked about like respecting the customer and just is really dialed into the comic book industry. And I tried Department of Truth and I liked it a little bit, but it was a little bit too conspiracy heavy, mind fuckery, and I couldn't do it. I kind of passed on it. This is where that book is where it is at. I am all in on Something is Killing the Children. There is a book that spun out of Something is Killing the Children once you get to a certain point,
Yeah, I saw
and
this. I
called
can't remember
House
the
of
name
Slaughter. Called House of Slaughter.
Okay.
So I will be reading that book as well too. But this volume I have contains, I believe, the first two trades. The third trade is like a flashback, and it gives you Erica's like origin story and how she came to be. Dude, those issues were excellent. Like her whole origin story and how she became what she is. I really don't want to spoil. I don't want to spoil it. I don't even really want to talk about it. But Eric was 1000% correct. This is up there. It's number 4. It's up there with Walking Dead Invincible Saga, and it's probably number 4. It's
that is
not
high praise.
It's not that. It's not maybe in that category, but like I really enjoyed it, and it is something that I could see myself rereading actually, which is something I don't do a lot.
Well, I guess I got to put this one on the
maybe
list.
maybe a step. I don't want to gas it up for you. For me, it really resonated with me, and I really liked it. I'll let me back some of that praise up a little bit, but it was very good.
I mean, when it comes to comic book recommendations, you and Eric are people that I probably trust the most. And this one especially is embarrassing for me because I passed it on from Eric to you, but didn't read it myself yet. So I probably owe it to both of you to read this one now.
Yeah, I think you should try the first.
Friend.
I think you should try the first trade. I think you'll dig it, and yeah, it was very good. It was very good, and I'm being obtuse and vague about it because I don't want to give too much.
I appreciate that. That's the right thing to do. It's a horror comic, right?
It is. It's a horror comic. It reads really fast too. It's like Walking Dead. It kind of reminds me of that. Like even it reads even faster than Walking Dead. Interesting art, not like obviously not crazy superhero art, but the art fits the style of the book. I really think you'll dig it. It's definitely a horror book. But yeah, man, I got sucked in. I'm all in. I love it.
I love it.
It was
So
very
last
good.
week, when I was trying to wrap up, you hit me with an honorable mention, like in the middle of my closing.
All right.
I've got something to tack on here at the end.
All right.
Call it a correction. Call it a redaction. But in the last 4 for 4 episode, I recommended Ghost Rider, the current Ghost Rider that Marvel has published. And I caught up over the weekend. I read I have all 5 issues, read them all, and issue number 5, I think maybe I need to walk back the recommendation because they did one of the goofiest things that I've ever seen in modern comics. They had this fantastic slow burn on what's happening to Johnny and relationship with the Ghost Rider, and it was very much like kind of creepy horror vibes. I remember saying it harkened back to the 90s Ghost Rider that I loved so much. That's why I was so on board with this comic, and they absolutely shattered that about 6 pages and 5. I just can't in good conscience recommend the book anymore.
Well, at the time, it was a good recommendation. You're only 3 issues in or whatever.
Yeah.
At the time.
But,
yeah.
And I do tend to shy away from spoiler content, but I think in this case, I owe it to you and everyone else.
I think you can spoil it.
So at the end of issue 4, Ghost Rider leaves a message for Johnny when he changes back to Johnny. Johnny wakes up in the street, and Ghost Rider leaves him a message to go. He has to go to this this motorcycle race that's happening like somewhere in a flyover state. I forget where, like North Dakota or something silly. He has to go there. Go here or die. That's what the message says. So Johnny goes to the motorcycle race, and it's like the race is like an annual event that goes around some like crazy dangerous route or whatever. And the prize is that the winner of the race gets audience with the devil. So Johnny's thinking, "Oh, I'm going to go here and I'm going to win the race." And that's gonna get the answers that I need. So I have to know what's going, like who imprisoned me in that fake town, what's going on with me and the Ghost Rider. Like, I need answers. So I'm thinking like this is just like a bunch of like dudes on motorcycles, right? So at the starting line, of the race,
You can't even finish it. He's crying. Dude's crying. He can't even get it out.
Dr. Doom is on a motorcycle. And so is Black Widow. And so is Moon Knight. And so is Daredevil. And so is Wolverine. And so is the Man Thing. But the Man Thing is so big, he's on one of those 3-wheeled motorcycles. And all of these random heroes and villains are going to do a motorcycle race through North Dakota to win an audience with the devil. Like they spent 4.5 issues setting up like this really cool modern horror take on Ghost Rider, to then just hard left into slapstick idiot with no warning and for no apparent reason.
Dr. Doom kind of makes sense.
No, he does not.
Because he wants to find out. He wants an audience with his mother. So I could kind of vaguely see
what
him.
About Dr. Doom suggests to you that man would ever lower himself to a motorcycle race against the Man Thing? Enlighten me, because I don't see it happening. No way. And then when the race starts, the first thing that happens is Doom, one hand, like magic green energy blast someone's face at the starting line. Oh, and by the way, God. Johnny never changes into the Ghost Rider for the race. He's just human-ass Johnny Blaze riding a motorcycle.
I'm going to take those books, and those can go to the donate pile. Those can go right to I'm not going to read that.
I actually took pictures of those panels. I'm going to send them to you as soon as we're done recording.
Please do.
So you can really experience it. But if anybody picked up Ghost Rider on my recommendation last month, send me a PayPal request for like $6. I'll reimburse you. And with that, we'll do this again in a month. We'll be back next week with something else to talk about. I don't know what it is. Follow us on Twitter. Our handles are in the bio video and in the description of all the podcast. My name is Dave.
It reminds me of Wacky Races by Hanna-Barbera. I'm Matt. We're out.
Later. Bye, everybody.